The time has just gone 10 o'clock Pacific time, so I will start the webinar now. Thank you everybody for joining. My name is Callan Chabella. I'm the CEO of Inference Solutions. If you've listened to these webinars before, you'll be used to my voice by now. We have quite a lot of webinars on our documentation portal, so if you're interested in what you see today and you'd like to find out more information, go and check that out, and I'll show a link to that at the end of the session today. Well, I like to keep these webinars nice and quick because people's time is important. So let's get straight into it. If you have questions, feel free to ask them during the session, and I'll respond to you individually after the webinar is complete. We found that works a lot better than trying to actually do that during the session. Today's webinar is on Inference Studio 4.2 and specifically the new SMS functionality in 4.2. There's a lot of SMS functionality that got added in 4.2, and we'll go through that in quite a lot of detail. We'll build some systems together as part of the webinar. So for those that are familiar with Studio or Inference Studio, the latest version was released in March 2017, so only recently. That version was version 4.2. As I mentioned before, one of the biggest features that we added was support for SMS-driven scripts. So prior to 4.2, a script was assumed to be a voice script, so an IVR interaction, whether it be inbound or outbound. Now it can be an IVR interaction or essentially an SMS bot interaction where you are doing two-way SMS. So this webinar is going to focus on using Studio for SMS-driven interactions. We'll look at inbound and we'll look at outbound as well. And we'll also show briefly just how you can switch between channels. So start, for example, an SMS conversation and then escalate that to a voice interaction using a telephone call. So for those that are not that familiar with Inference, we're an IVR messaging and self-service company. We're known primarily for our Inference Studio platform, which is the one I'll be demonstrating today. But we also have a range of other platforms that carriers use. Inference Queue for Me, which is our virtual queuing platform. In Inference React, which if you're a Broadworks-based service provider, provides you a full XSI abstraction layer over your Broadworks switch, so you can build some really interesting services. And the theme with our business over time has been combining these closer and closer together. So using React to power Inference Studio interactions, or using Queue for Me to power Studio, and so on. So they all work together in sort of one framework. We have a 100% SaaS delivery model, so we have both a private cloud model, which is what most of the service providers on this call would be using today, but we also have a public cloud model now as well. In 4.2, we introduced Amazon Direct Connect as an option, so if you're in a part of the world where we don't have a private point of presence, you can now use Amazon Direct Connect and connect to us that way. Which really opens up our footprint and allows you to basically be anywhere, because there are a lot of Amazon Direct Connect locations these days. And you're probably already aware that we sell entirely via carriers and service providers. So these are traditionally a non-software as a service customer base, but we've really sort of pioneered the use of software as a service, infrastructure as a service for these types of partners. So most of the people I can see in the list here in the webinar today are from service providers and carriers. And we're resold currently by a few dozen carriers across the globe, spanning the big tier 1s, tier 2 and tier 3 carriers. All right, so let's get straight into SMS scripting. One of the things that we introduced in Studio 4.2 is this concept of credits. So for those familiar with prior versions of Studio, it was sold on what we call a session basis, where a session represents an individual phone call that serves simultaneously. So you can kind of think of a session as like a virtual agent. If you had 10 virtual agents, you could answer 10 calls at the same time. We'd call that 10 sessions. If you wanted to answer 100 calls at the same time, you'd need 100 virtual agents or 100 sessions. Now, there's no real concept of a session when it comes to SMS, so we had to expand the billing model to support credits. So basically, when you log in, you'll see your credit balance, and I'll talk more about that as we go into the interface. But basically, you consume credits by using SMS interactions. Now, as with all Inference products, it's designed for carriers and service providers, and so it's assumed that the service provider will be actually purchasing credits wholesale, and then they can allocate them to customer accounts as they see fit. Credits have a 12-month expiry. So any use of SMS in the platform will basically consume and burn down this credit balance. So for example, receiving an SMS into an inbound SMS script will consume a credit, or credits, depending on where in the world you're having that SMS processed. An outbound SMS will consume credits, and having an SMS enabled number sitting in an account will consume credits as well, and it will just deduct credits per month while you have that number active in the actual studio interface. The actual credit cost for each feature is found on your regional rate card. So I can see a lot of the people here on the webinar are from North America. There was a North American rate card that will explain to you what the actual credit costs are for North America. If you're elsewhere in the world, there will be a regional rate card that you could use, and you can just get that from your sales rep within Inference. Okay, so let's get straight into it and build some services. The first one I want to build is just a simple SMS script with a response, just to show you how easy it is. And if you're familiar with the studio interface for IVR, it's basically identical when it comes to SMS. So I'm just going to switch over to that now. There it is there on my screen. I'm just logging in with my usual demonstration company account. Now, one of the ways I found that was good to test this and do it over a webinar was to use Push Bullet. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Push Bullet. It's just a little plugin you can get for Firefox or Chrome, and basically allows you to just mirror your SMS feed on the screen. Okay, so what you're seeing here on the screen on the right-hand side is just my little Push Bullet pop-up, and I'll send messages from here and receive messages from here. But basically, it's mirroring what's happening on my phone. Okay, so I just logged in as just a regular end customer account, and you can see there's a new section at the bottom of the screen now below the application list, which is SMS credit. So this particular account has 8,322 credits, and they'll expire on the 30th of June 2018. Okay. Now, going into Studio is the same as always. Just click on the Studio link, and that will take me into Studio. Now, the default view is the IVR view, so you can see this particular account has 105 IVR scripts. It has 6 available service numbers and 2 service numbers currently in use. I can filter out the IVR scripts just showing me the ones that have service numbers on them by clicking on the Only Service Number Mapped button, and I can turn that on and off, and you'll notice that it's exactly the same interface when I go up to the script menu at the top and click down on this new link, which is called SMS scripts. So you can see here that the look and feel is exactly the same. So in this case, I have 3 SMS scripts in the same account. I have 5 service numbers currently available. So these are SMS inbound service numbers that are available, and I have 1 service number that is in use. Now, for those service providers that have sold our voice version of the platform, so earlier versions of Studio, for example, you might be wondering, how do I actually get these service numbers if I'm not a mobile operator? We basically handle all of that for you. So as part of the service we provide, we go out and we look at sort of the CPaaS platforms that are out there, and we basically pick the best at any point in time, and we'll be using that as the transport mechanism for your SMS calls. We will support in the future the ability to have your own SMS gateway as well if you do run a mobile network, but at the moment the version 4.2 is supporting a number of CPaaS platforms under the hood. As with the IVR scripts, if I wanted to filter just to the ones that are active, I can click the same service number map button, and you can see here we have 1 script here that's currently mapped to a number. So building a script is exactly the same as in with an IVR. You go up to scripts, and just with IVRs you would press the plus button here. For SMS you'd press the plus button next to SMS. So I'm just going to build this one here. I'll call it webinar demo, and we'll just click on add, and this will build me a placeholder for my webinar. Okay, I'm going to click on that script now, and just like with IVR scripts, it's going to ask how I'd like to build it. I can copy from any scripts I've built previously. In the future, we'll be able to also copy from SMS templates. Those are currently in development, so if you're a big user of IVR templates, you'll be able to use SMS templates as well, and you'll be able to publish your own templates just like you do with IVR. Similarly, you'll be able to import scripts between accounts and export them just like you do with IVR. So let's just start a completely brand new call flow. So there it is there. It looks exactly the same as an IVR script. So you still have this concept of nodes. You still have the concept of a start node, so calls coming in at the start. In this case, it's messages coming in at the start. And in an IVR, typically the final node is either a hang up or a transfer. In a Studio SMS script, it's a reply. Default node is a reply SMS. So if I wanted to go up, for example, specify my reply here, I could just edit it, just like I do with any other node, go to settings, and here is my reply. Okay. So I might say, hello, how are you? Okay, so that's my response that I want to have. So now any calls that come in here will basically get that response sent back to the originating call. So I'm just going to switch over to my actually, before I do that, I need to map a number. I haven't mapped the number yet. So let's go back to SMS scripts and let's map a service number to this webinar script that I created. Actions, map a service number. I'm going to pick the one there at the top of the list, ending in 211, and now that is now live on the platform. Okay, so let's show that working. Hello there, I'm going to say. So you can see this is me sending an SMS from my phone. You can see it's pending. It just takes a few seconds using push bullet, but you can see it says hello there, and I'm now just waiting for the response back. Now the response has already come back on my phone because I can hear it in the background, but you can see the response there, hello, how are you? So all that's done is basically followed that call flow that we've got here. Okay, so really straightforward. Now, if we wanted to extend this a little bit more, we could actually start using things like variables and so forth within the SMS. So if I just wanted to modify that, I could say, hello, how are you? I see you are sending me messages from, and then I can use these little curly braces, and that'll pop up any of the variables that are available to the script at this point. So I'm going to use the ANI, which is available here, and I'm going to just save that. All right. So now we're going to respond with an actual variable in the call. So I'm going to say hello again. Just wait for that to go out. And we'll get a response back. And there it goes beeping in the background. I'll just wait a few seconds for push bullet to update. It says, hello, how are you? I see you're sending me a message from, and that's my phone number there on the screen. Okay, so now we've just combined it with a variable. All right. Now, if we wanted to extend this to be something a bit more useful, we can start using the node palette. So just like you do with Studio IVR scripts, we can drop in nodes anywhere we like. So for example, in this case, if I wanted to drop in a node, you'll see these are all the different nodes that I have available to me. Now you won't see the same set of nodes that you have available to an IVR script because there are some concepts that SMS doesn't have, of course. For example, it doesn't have the concept of sending a prompt, reading something out over the phone, taking spoken input, and so forth. So you won't see those types of nodes appearing, but you'll see other ones as well appearing in the list. So, for example, if we wanted to make a decision here, we could go in here and make a decision. So I just hang up on this. Sorry, we're going to make a decision here, and let's filter based on ANI. Okay, so let's say filter based on ANI. Okay, so one of the things I want to look for, I want to look is if I'm sending a message, so from my phone number. So one of the conditions I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, let's create a condition that says if I'm ringing from a particular, or if I'm texting from a particular phone number, let's respond differently to if I'm just texting from some other number. So I'm going to go and create a condition, and for those that are used to Studio, one of the things you might notice here is that the expression builder is quite different now. We've completely overhauled the expression builder in Studio 4.2. It's now a lot more extensible. It's easy to use. Lots of feedback was got from users about the expression builder, and it was used to make it better. So one of the things I'm going to do here, I'm going to do a logical operation, and I'm going to compare a variable, in this case the ANI, and if my ANI is equal to 14155352229, that's my phone number there. If that happens, I'm going to branch to a particular a node, and I'm going to call that its Callan, so the its Callan node. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the plain old reply SMS node that I already have. So this is what I'm doing here. Text will come in. I'll now basically filter on the ANI. If it's my phone number, it's going to go over here and it's going to play out its Callan. Otherwise, it's going to go in this way and it's just going to reply with the ANI of the caller that actually sent the message. So let's change that, the response to its Callan. I'm going to change that to a reply SMS. And I'm going to go, hello Callan, how are you today, for example. Okay. And going back to push bullet, we'll say hello again. And this time we should see it basically branching down the left-hand side as opposed to down the right-hand side. Just wait for that response. And there you go. Hello, Callan. How are you today? So basically filtered based on my phone number and went down this branch as opposed to going down this branch. So just like you can with IVR scripts, you can basically build quite complicated call flows now using all these different types of nodes, and you'll expect over time for there to be more and more nodes appearing in this list. Okay. All right. Now, what about outbound? What if we wanted to turn this particular script that we've got here into an outbound system? Well, you do that exactly the same way that you do it with a Studio IVR script. You go up to connect, which is the dialer or the campaigner, if you like. And we can still create list-based campaigns where we upload a spreadsheet of numbers and we want to contact these people. Again, if you're familiar with earlier versions of Studio, with 4.2, the list-based campaigns have been completely overhauled as well. So now we have full API control within the list-based campaigns, which we didn't have before. Or you can use on-demand campaigns where we're just publishing a simple web service, and that's the one that I'm going to do now. I'm going to create a new on-demand campaign. Okay, so I'm going to call it webinar SMS outbound. SMS outbound. And I'm going to pick my script. Now you can see when I go to my list of scripts, you'll see all my IVR scripts at the top. So I've got lots of IVR scripts in this particular account. And then at the bottom, we'll see all my SMS scripts. So I'm going to, if I basically pick an SMS script, it is now going to be an SMS campaign. It's as simple as that. So this script has no variables for passing in, so there's nothing to select there, but I'm just going to click on add. And this has now built for me a new on-demand API that I can use to trigger SMS calls that will trigger this script. Okay, just like if you're familiar with Studio, earlier versions of Studio, just like you do with a Studio IVR campaign. Okay, so let's actually use that campaign. I'm going to go up to Connect here, and I'm going to list my on-demand campaigns. And you can see there's my new campaign there. You can see there we've got a mixture here. We've got SMS campaigns and IVR campaigns within the one Connect module, which is how it works. And just like with an IVR script, you can actually make a call. Now in this case, it's actually send a message. So I'm going to do 415-535-2229, and I'm going to basically send a text to that particular phone number. Okay. Now you might be wondering what actually happens here. How does it determine what the ANI of the call is? Well, when you're using an SMS campaign, it basically takes the number that you are texting and it uses that as the ANI. So you can see the response that came back is, hello Callan, how are you? Because I texted basically 415-535-2229. So it went down the same branch that we showed earlier. Went down the branch here. Okay. So straightforward, all the usual features that you'd expect in an IVR campaign you can get in an SMS campaign. All right, so what I want to do now is show a more complicated example, something that's actually useful. And so I'm going to go back to my list all my SMS scripts. And this is an example of it's just a demonstration, but it's a real world service. It's a ferry schedule information service. So I live here in San Francisco. I get the ferry to and from the office here, and so I thought it'd be interesting to create a little service that actually went out and checked the ferry schedule, and so people could find out when the next ferry was departing. So you could imagine this would be, you know, similar to any sort of public transport type system out there. So let's have a look at how this one actually works. Right, so a bit more complicated this script is obviously. So basically when a call comes in, what it's actually going to do is it's going to actually check what kind of request type there is. Okay, so the basic thing that happens is it basically is checking for different content within the body of the SMS. Okay, so let's actually have a look at the most basic version. So we'll just send a random, if we send a random message containing any sort of text to this number up here on the screen, and you can actually try it if you just want to SMS that number there on the screen, you can actually try this service. And let's actually see what happens here. So it basically goes into this variable node over here, and you can see it basically it reads out some information. So it says, welcome to the Larkspur San Francisco ferry schedule. To find the next ferry, simply SMS your departure point. Really, really simple. And so it's essentially, if you send any message to this, it's going to respond with that. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm actually going to go back to push bullet here, and I actually have to shut that down and start a new one. And I'm going to create a new SMS. Okay, so I'm going to create a new text message. And the number I'm going to need to contact is 747-208-7744, and I'm going to respond with this message, hi. Oops, hi. Okay. And there you go. So there is the message. You can see I said hi, and it responded to welcome to the Larkspur San Francisco ferry schedule. To find the next ferry, simply SMS your departure point. Choices are Larkspur or San Francisco. Okay, so let's say, okay, I'm leaving from San Francisco. So I'm sending San Francisco. So we're basically having a conversation here with this application. Okay, so I've set San Francisco, and I'm just waiting for it to respond. Okay, now the interactions actually are much faster than this. The only reason why it looks a bit sort of slow on the screen is because of this push bullet is basically waiting for my phone to update a server so it can display it here in the Mozilla browser. But it is much faster when you're actually doing it on your phone. So you can see here I responded with San Francisco, and it says the current time is 10:22, which it is. The next ferry departing San Francisco is 10:55 a.m. Respond with yes if you would like a reminder. Okay, so let's just actually switch back to this screen and see what's actually happened there. So basically, I sent a message. It gave me the help information because it didn't know what I'd sent it. I then responded with a specific request where I actually used the word San Francisco, and you can see here in the decision node here, it says if the text is San Francisco or the text is Larkspur, then we're going to go down this particular branch here. We're going to have a very different sort of branching within this call flow. So the way it's actually working is it's actually going out to a web service, and here we're using an integration node, which is just like we would in an IVR script, and we're actually going out to a particular URL, and we're actually getting information on the fly based on this request. So you can see here the URL is just a demo web service that I put up there. It's just called get schedule. And we're actually passing in one particular variable. We're passing in the departure point, and you can see I'm passing that in. And so in this case, I'm testing it with the value of San Francisco. And if you're familiar with the integration node in earlier versions of Studio, it's identical when it comes to SMSs. So you can actually preview the payload here, and you can see here what it's done. It's gone out to this URL. It's as a get parameter, it's sent San Francisco for the departs parameter, and this is the response back from that web service. So you can see it comes back as XML. There's our 200 OK. You can see this is the XML payload. It gives me the current time. It gives me the time of the next ferry. In this case, there's a couple of other parameters it's sending me back, the number of seconds until the next ferry departs, and also the suggested time for a reminder if you want a reminder about this ferry. So you can see that this is actually 10 minutes, 10:45. It's 10 minutes before the actual departure time. Okay. And just like you can with any IVR script, you can click on these things. So I can just click on any aspect of this, and I can start using it within my SMS flow. So if I, for example, are interested in the next time, I can say test, and there is the next time, 10:55. And that's exactly what I'm doing. If I scroll a little bit further down, you can see that I'm returning the current time, the next ferry, the delta, and the reminder time, and I'm setting those to variables within my actual script. Okay. And so that's how I get a response back that looks like, sorry, let's go back to push bullet. That's how I get a response back that looks like this. The current time is 10:22. The next ferry is departing at 10:55. Respond with yes if you'd like a reminder. Okay. So let me just try that again, because I want to show one more thing, and let me just pop that out so we can keep that on the screen. And we'll just try that again. San Francisco. So I'm just setting up my session again, because there is a session timer here. And so, because I was talking so long, it may have expired. So I'm just starting a new conversation here. I'm saying I want to leave from San Francisco. And we'll see here, it responds with the same information again. And now I'm actually going to respond with yes. Yes, I would like a reminder. So when I say yes, I would like a reminder, what is actually happening here is it's going to go down a different branch in the flow. Okay. Now I'll just wait for it to respond. There you go. A reminder has been set at 10:45 for this phone number. All right. So how's that working? Well, it's actually going down this particular branch here. So you can see that each of these options is referring to a particular kind of dialogue state. This is where we've sent them a particular destination or departure point, I should say. This is where we've responded with a yes. This is where we responded with a no. This is where we respond with anything else. Okay. So if I said yes, what it's actually doing here is it's actually going to set up an outbound call reminder to my phone. So here we're escalating from just an SMS texting interaction to an actual voice interaction. We'll actually get a voice call back to my phone with the reminder. Okay. Now you can see the way I'm doing it is I've actually got a little decision note here that says check the reminder mode, and it says is it an SMS reminder mode or is it something else, i.e. a voice mode. And then all I'm doing is basically passing in different API keys, and these are just connect module API keys. One of them is for a voice call, and one of them is for an SMS call, or sorry, an SMS text message. So to switch between these two, all I need to do is change the value of this particular variable. All right, so change the value of reminder mode will determine whether I get a phone call back or I get an SMS back. Okay. And if you're wondering where you can modify that, it's as with it always, it's up in scripts, and it is under script variables. And here you can see here, the reminder mode is currently set to voice. Okay, so I change that to SMS, I'd get an SMS reminder, otherwise I get a voice reminder. So then, once I have that API key, we want to trigger the reminder. Okay, now triggering a reminder is again just another integration node. And in this case, we're actually triggering an API that's on the Studio platform itself. This is just a standard on-demand API call. So you can see here API/version1/outbound/call, and then when we pass in the information that we want to pass, so the API key and then the phone number that we want to pass. And that's it. Now you have escalated to an outbound call. Now I'm passing in information that relates to a future time. So I'm actually going to get the call in a few minutes. This webinar won't go long enough to actually get the feedback call, but you can try this out for yourself. If you want to try the service, just give that a little SMS, that number there in SMS, and you can try it out for yourself. Now just keep in mind that it's going to be on Pacific time because it's assuming that you're in San Francisco, but you get the idea. Okay, so this is really just an example of a real-world type of system. What we're hoping is that our user community will come up with some really interesting ideas and ways of using this. So you could imagine things like SMS reminders for things like prescription refills, for appointments, for scheduled servicing, for subscription management, for bill reminders. It just goes on and on and on. And basically, with Studio now, you have the ability to be able to get in and build these interactions without having to deal with the low-level APIs and do it in a way that you're already familiar with if you're used to Studio. So at no point here are we writing any code, for example. Now we do consume a couple of web services, but for the most part, we could build ourselves a complete SMS information service without ever having to write any code. All right, so let's have a look at what we did. So we built a simple SMS with a response. We made it more complex using some studio nodes. So we used the little decision node. We can then converted it into an actual outbound script. That was very simple. And then we made a more complex real-world example, or we showed a complex real-world example, which was a web service driven, which had a multi-stage dialogue, and we escalated it to an outbound phone call.